Hey, my name is Daniel Ramsey. I'm the founder and CEO of My Outdesk, and today we're going to talk about why 97% of businesses fail to cross $1 million in revenue. And if you've already crossed $1 million in revenue, we're going to talk about what it takes to get to 10 million. And if you're already at 10 million, we're going to talk about the threads that accelerate growth for all entrepreneurs and any business out there so you can have massive success and more profits. Okay, the very first thing that you have to know is in order to be an entrepreneur, you have to have an idea. But ideas aren't the only thing that matter. In fact, ideas are cheap and execution is the only thing that causes somebody to become an entrepreneur and decide to do the hard work of actually being their own boss. In this stage one, in the beginning, you have an idea, and yet the thing that causes you to get to the next stage is investing in yourself. You have to learn your market. You have to learn how to sell. You have to learn how to generate revenue and cash. And there's a whole bunch of mindset stuff that has to go on. And so in this stage one, what you're doing is you're really investing in yourself and everybody around you to have you help build a business. You gotta get a license. You gotta start a company. You gotta open a bank account. There's a lot of things that you have to learn, and it's all about self-discovery in stage one. And if you decide to invest in yourself and build skills, then you're gonna go into stage two, and at that point, you're making $100,000 a year. Congratulations, you are actually self-employed, meaning you have a business that is earning you income. In this stage, it's really important to start mastering your market and sales skills. This is where you're out and you learn your value proposition, objection handling, and you're learning how to go out into the marketplace and raise your hand and say, I offer a product and a service, and this is how I serve my customers. If you do a good job of sales in that space, you are gonna bump from stage 2 to stage 3. And in that world, it's all about creating marketing. Marketing and sales are hand in hand, and you move from this idea of chasing business to an idea of attracting business, meaning instead of raising your hand and going after all the deals, you're actually creating content, you're creating an offering, and you're creating a market and a model that people are gonna actually be attracted to. At this stage, you might be producing videos and content and flyers and going out into the world and saying, I'm open for business and I want to help you. That's a space of real challenge because it creates a moment where you have to actually speak to a broader market. You're no longer one-to-one marketing or one-to-one selling. You actually have to think about who's out in your marketplace and the problems you're solving for the general public. So in stage 3, this is where you're getting a master class because you got to learn how to get a CRM. You got to learn how to write marketing content. You got to actually have a value proposition out to the general market that solves problems and has solutions for a mass amount of people. If you do that correctly, if you go out there and you start generating over $300,000 in revenue, you get the opportunity to build systems and process inside your business. And systems and processes can be a technology platform. It can be as simple as a checklist. It can be as simple as having a customer list of all the people that you're going after in Excel. It can be very simple or it can be very complicated. But in order to go from stage 3 to stage 4, and voila, stage 4 is a multi-million-dollar in revenue business. That's where you're actually moving from self-employed, you have a small business, to a point where you can hire people, you have profits, you probably have a CPA, you probably are starting to pay taxes for the first time in a high level. Most businesses actually fail to ever get to a stage 4 and $1 million. And the other stat that's wild, when I heard this, it blew my mind. 60% of all businesses out there pay zero tax, meaning they never make money. They keep saying to the IRS, hey, I had more expenses than I made in revenue. But at this stage 4, you actually cross a point. You cross a point where you're profitable. You cross a point where you get to hire a team. Building systems and process means you are going to cross that $1 million. At this point, you start hiring people, right? You might have an assistant. You might have salespeople. You might have a marketing person. You absolutely need a CPA at this point. You absolutely need a tax advisor. You absolutely need an attorney on your team so you can get contracts. You're starting to build systems and processes in your business that really can be impactful, and your marketplace, likely the marketplace out there, is recognizing you as a top profession in your industry, meaning you're one of the best in your local market. This is also a moment where you might expand regionally or into multiple locations. And so as you're in stage 4, you actually get the opportunity through leverage to cross this $1 million mark. Once you cross $1 million in revenue, you're actually starting to build wealth and you become an entrepreneur. This is that spot where where you can actually plant your flag and say, I am impacting the world. I have employees. I'm helping people solve big problems with my business. And what's cool about this moment is, again, 97% of businesses never cross that mark. So you are in the elite. If you were in sports, for instance, you've gone to middle school, you've gone to high school, and you're in college now. You're in college and you're competing against the best in the country. So it's a cool place to be. Now, once you cross the $1 million mark and you start building leverage, that leverage is typically people and systems. So your technology platform, the people on your team, you start defining roles within your company. Prior to this $1 million mark, everybody's a generalist, meaning your team is running around. You know, one guy might be doing this, another gal might do that. And there's a lot of picking up the pieces and just chasing the revenue. Getting to that $1 million mark means you have to start defining roles. You have to start defining the systems and processes. And specifically, you have to have a system and process for generating revenue, for creating content, for doing the operations and delivery inside of your business. And that means you have to have specialization in each of the departments within your company. And it's a really cool place because if you do this well, you can then move on where as an entrepreneur, you can cast vision, create leaders within your company, and really start crossing that $10 million in revenue. Now, there's a really common thread to accelerate the growth as you make this journey. The very first thing is understanding cash flow. They say cash is king. It absolutely is, and specifically when you're growing a business, this is the one thing that I see people make a mistake on. They're not paying attention to what's in their bank account and their financials at a high enough level. And if you do that throughout this process, it will be an accelerant to you as you're growing. The other thing is model. Most people aren't thinking around what their model is, how they serve, and the unit economics every time they get a client. And if you think about model as you're creating this journey and you start tweaking your model and start measuring the unit economics. So if you sell one widget, what is the profit on that widget? How much cash flow on that widget? What's my system for delivering that widget to a customer? And what does it cost me? A lot of CAC, client acquisition, becomes an issue. Your labor efficiency ratio becomes an issue. And in this world, if you're paying attention to model, you're paying attention to cash, this will be an accelerant as you grow a $10 million company and you're beginning to build real wealth. This is that moment where as an entrepreneur, you can actually call yourself a CEO, meaning you have a team, they're the ones in the trenches, they're the ones doing the work. And if you reach that $10 million and your revenue engine is being taken care of by other people, hopefully your employees within your company or the W-9 contractors within your company, if that is happening, you have the right, you've earned the right to be a CEO. That's a conversation. If you have CEO in your Instagram file or on your LinkedIn and you're anywhere below $1 million in revenue, take that off right now. You are an entrepreneur at best. You're self-employed, which by the way, isn't a bad thing. You have what's called a lifestyle business. You've decided to own the job because you could easily go to work for a company, a large company, and make a good living, but you don't want to be held down or pinned down by the rules of that company. And you don't want to be told when to work or where to work or what your schedule has to be or show up at an office or basically have a boss. So what you've done is you've decided to be self-employed. That means you work for yourself, but you're not a CEO. You're not an entrepreneur. You are simply a person who likes the freedom and has a lifestyle business. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's very profitable. A lot of people have, $800,000, $900,000 a year businesses where they're making $300,000, $400,000 in profit and they live an amazing life. However, if you're in this game to build vision, build wealth, and become an entrepreneur and call yourself a CEO, this is that path. This is the path that you have to follow in order to achieve that goal. What's cool about it too is once you cross that $10 million world, you can start building impact into your business model, meaning you can find ways to give back in charitable causes. You can have your employees be part of making an impact in the world, and you can start solving problems in the world with your product or service. And it's a big deal to do that. And every time I see a CEO who's done that, meaning they've built a $10 million business and they've started to impact and employ people and make other people's lives better with their product and service, I have a massive amount of respect for those people because they've done really hard things. The other piece that I want you to know is each of these different stages are like mountains, meaning as you're climbing the mountain and getting to the first $1 million, it's really tough. You've got to learn things. You've got to reinvent yourself. You've got to discover, self-discover. And every time you get to $1 million, you're like, finally, I got there. I'm at the top of my game. I'm at the summit and you look up and it's a false summit, meaning there's another climb that has to happen. And each one of these climbs, as you go from 1 million to 10, from 10 to 50, from 50 to 100, each one of these climbs, you have to have a different set of equipment. Your system and process has to change. Maybe you need new team members on the bus, meaning you got to go out and recruit a different skill set to your company. Maybe your model has to shift. Maybe you have to look bigger and brighter. But the reality of being an entrepreneur and a true CEO is that every time you cross another revenue threshold, you have to reinvent yourself. That is the challenge of being an entrepreneur. And it's also the thing that keeps me excited every single day because it requires self-development. You have to become someone new every time you cross another revenue threshold. And so that's what keeps me in this game. It's super fun. If you watch this video and also you need support, meaning you might need some strategies, you might need to figure out who's on your team, you might need to think about who your system and process is and what you need in order to cross that multi-million-dollar mark, I've asked my team to do a free leverage consultation. This is the most challenging thing that I've ever done in my own life, growing from 1 million to 10 and then 10 to 50, and I want you to have the support that you deserve and need doing so. There's only a couple strategies that matter, and our team is poised to help you develop your path to the next echelon in your business. This consultation is completely free and will walk through the path that you need to take in order to double your business. If you'd like to schedule that consultation, it's below in the bio and it's completely free to you. I hope you've enjoyed this content, and if you'd like more videos just like this, click below to follow and like.